The most valuable company in the history of the world decided to build a car. It spent 10 years. It spent more than $10 billion. It hired nearly 2,000 of the best engineers on the planet. And in February of 2024, it walked into a room, told them it was over, and sent them to go work on something else. There is no Apple car. There never will be. This is the story of the most expensive product Apple ever built and then buried, without ever selling a single one. Let's start with the number, because the number is the whole story. More than $10 billion. That is enough to buy an entire established car company outright. Apple spent it over a decade, and at the end, there was no car, no factory, no production line, not a single vehicle a customer could buy. The company that turned a phone into the most profitable product in human history looked at the automobile, a machine we have mass-produced for over a century, and could not finish one. It had the money, the talent, and the time without limit. The question is how, with all three, you still end up with nothing. And the answer starts with the decision they refused to make. Here is the thing that killed it, and it was there from the very beginning. Nobody could agree on what the car actually was. Inside Apple, two visions went to war and never stopped fighting. One camp wanted the moonshot, a fully self-driving car with no steering wheel and no pedals, a living room on wheels that would make Tesla look primitive. The other camp wanted something you could actually ship, a beautiful electric car, but a car with a wheel that a person drives. Every time one side won, the project pointed in a new direction. Then leadership changed, and it pointed somewhere else. The car was going to be a robo-taxi, then a luxury sedan, then a robo-taxi again. Reportedly, the promised launch date slid from 2019 to 2025 to 2028, a car perpetually 4 years away, because 4 years away is where you put a thing you haven't decided to build. A company famous for saying no to 1,000 features to protect one perfect product had built a car project that couldn't say no to anything, and a project that can't choose, can't ship. It can only spend. And it spent while the people at the top kept leaving. The project cycled through leader after leader, each inheriting a slightly different car and a slightly bigger budget. One of them was Doug Field, a serious engineer Apple had poached from Tesla to bring some automotive reality to the operation. And in 2021, he left, walked across the industry, and went to run electric vehicles at Ford. Think about that. The person brought in to help Apple build a car decided he could build one faster at a 120-year-old company in Detroit than at the richest company in California. When the people you hire to finish the thing leave to go finish it somewhere else, that is not a talent problem. That is a message. Apple kept handing the wheel to a new driver, and every new driver turned the car around. This is where the Apple magic was supposed to take over, and here is why it didn't. Apple's genius was never really invention, it was integration, taking known parts and assembling them into something that felt inevitable. That works when you control everything: the chip, the software, the store, the factory partner who builds exactly what you draw. A car does not play by those rules. A car has to survive rain, ice, a 100-degree parking lot, a teenager, and a head-on collision for 15 years while a government regulator watches. You cannot patch a car overnight. You cannot recall it with a software update and pretend it never happened. And the margins the whole industry runs on would embarrass Apple's accountants. Car companies fight for single-digit profit in a good year, and Apple was used to 40. So the most valuable company in the world looked at the actual business of building cars, thin margins, brutal liability, a supply chain it didn't control, and slowly realized the one machine it wanted to make was the one machine its playbook couldn't will into existence. At one point, Apple did the thing companies do when they can't build it themselves. It went shopping. Reportedly, it held talks to simply buy or partner with a real car maker, to bolt Apple's software onto someone else's century of knowing how to bend steel. The closest those conversations came, by public accounts, was with McLaren, the British maker of some of the fastest cars on Earth. Nothing happened. The talks came and went. And the reason is the same reason the whole project never shipped. Apple could not stand the idea of not controlling every atom of the experience, the data, the interface, the feel, and no car company on Earth would hand all of that over. So Apple was left where it started, too proud to buy a car, unable to build one, and burning $1 billion a year to stay exactly in place. And then, on a Tuesday in late February of 2024, it ended in a single meeting. Executives gathered the roughly 2,000 people of Project Titan and told them the truth. The car was dead. After 10 years, after more than $10 billion, after launch dates that had come and gone 3 times over. Some of the team would be laid off. Most would be moved. Not to another car, but to the thing Apple had quietly decided actually mattered now: artificial intelligence. And here is the detail that tells you everything. When the news leaked, Apple's stock did not fall. It went up. The most valuable company in the world had just admitted that a decade and $10 billion had produced nothing, and the market's reaction was relief. Wall Street had been more afraid of Apple building the car than of Apple killing it. That is the verdict. The smartest money on the planet looked at the Apple car and was glad it would never exist. So, what did $10 billion and 10 years actually buy? Not a car, but maybe something Apple needed more. It bought a very expensive lesson in the limits of even infinite resources, that some products cannot be summoned by money and brilliance alone, because the hard part isn't the idea, it's the decade of unglamorous, low-margin, life-and-death engineering that a phone never demanded. It bought nearly 2,000 trained engineers who were immediately redirected onto the next bet, the artificial intelligence race Apple had been accused of losing. In a strange way, the car's failure funded Apple's future, and it bought the rest of us a rare, clarifying fact that being the richest, most admired, most capable company on Earth is not the same as being able to build anything you want. Ask the 2,000 people who spent a decade on a car nobody will ever drive. By early 2024, there was no one left to build it. There was only the next thing. Because that is what Apple does when a bet goes bad. It doesn't hold a funeral. It quietly moves the money and pretends the ghost was never there.